Bow ties are cool. Also, dinosaurs on a spaceship! Hello everyone, I'm Papa Kenn and welcome to episode 72 of Discovering Doctor Who. Hey, that rhymed. Nice. But today, the episode I'm going to be talking about is Dinosaurs on a Spaceship! Yeah, in case you know, there's the Mario Galaxy thing and in the second game, Yoshi appears. Anyway, that's completely besides the point. This is a really weird episode, isn't it? Hope you all like my tie. A little bit random tonight. Anyway, let's get right into it with my favorite parts of this episode. And there were actually quite a few. Starting with Brian Williams, played by, I believe his name is Michael Williams, aka the dad, or Papa Weasley, from the Harry Potter movies, which I just thought was really, really cool. It's like, when I was first watching, I was just like, he's really familiar. Where do I know him from? And it wasn't until really close to the end that I all of a sudden realized, it's Papa Weasley! So that was just really cool. It was great to see him too. He was a really fun character throughout this. Starting out with the whole idea that he just doesn't like to travel, like he apparently doesn't travel at all. Like I think they made reference to either he never left the town that he lived in, or he never left the country, something like that. But whatever it was just really fun and funny, and just him getting thrown into the situation with the Doctor along with, you know, Amy and Rory. It was a lot of fun to see, and the contrast between the character Brian Williams and Rory Williams, that was a lot of fun to see too, because, you know, the dad was very, he had the little pocket trowel or shovel, whatever it is, and he's talking about, it's like, you know, yes, every man has one of these, why don't you? You should put it on your Christmas list. And then, you know, later we see Rory with the, essentially the nurse kit patching up his dad, which, you know, that was a really fun little scene as well, just getting to see them bond a little bit. We don't get a whole lot of information as to their relationship as a whole. I can only assume it's a little bit distant, with the dad normally just being, you know, very, you know, classical guy or older guy stereotype, I guess you would say. And then Rory being a bit different, it's like, you know, being a nurse, which is not something until recent years, you know, guys didn't tend to be nurses. Again, at least stereotypically. So yeah, the whole dynamics between Brian and Rory, and just Brian in general as a character in this episode, was just a lot of fun, really cool, and just, I mean, obviously one of my favorite parts of this episode. Now moving on, my second favorite part of this episode, the dinosaurs. And there's really not any additional explanation that's needed. I love dinosaurs. I always have, and I always will. Just to give you a quick little anecdote, when I lived around the Washington, D.C. area, the first time I went to the Natural History Science Museum, whatever it's called, where they have this big Brontosaurus skeleton or fossils, whatever it is, anyway, you know, this big display, and they have this gigantic Triceratops head, like skull, basically. Let's see, how old was I at the time? I think I was like 24, maybe 25 at the time when I went there. I was like a kid in a candy shop. It was just so cool, and that's basically the reaction I have when seeing the dinosaurs as they're portrayed in here. Same reaction in Jurassic Park, same reaction when I went to that museum, and same reaction in this episode. The graphics may not be as good as Jurassic Park, admittedly, but still, it was a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed that. Moving on, my third favorite part of this episode was Solomon, and another alumni of the Harry Potter movies, no less. I don't remember the actor's name, but he essentially played the caretaker of Hogwarts in the Harry Potter movies. And he was just a really effective villain in this episode. For an episode that was overall, it was all about the fun, really, just being silly and having fun with things. He provided this very I mean, he was the dark spot, like the dark mass in this entire episode, and it played so well. I mean, even if he wasn't necessarily doing like any of the killing in this episode, just the ruthlessness and the blank face with which he executes these orders, or in which he makes the orders for the robots to, you know, execute a Triceratops and, you know, injure Rory's dad, and then threatening to have it be a lethal shot next time. It was really well done. Very well acted, in my opinion. It was admittedly, for the villain, strangely, like, you know, seemingly a rather small role in the episode, but as a whole, well, maybe not. No, maybe I'm just thinking about it differently. But, I mean, as a whole, it was just a really good villain role. He did a really good job. It's not one of those, you know, big, gigantic roles like the Master or anything like that, but just as the villain of this episode, really well done. Oh my God, the way that we find the way he explains to it that he got rid of the original inhabitants of that spaceship, he just had them tossed out of the airlock. That's messed up. To say the least, that is just so messed up. So yeah, obviously the reason why it's my third favorite part of this episode, just a really good villain overall, Solomon. Now my fourth and final favorite part of this episode was Amy and Nefertiti, or however you say the name, because I keep getting it wrong, I'm pretty sure. But the interaction between those two, Nefertiti, as you know, by herself, was actually a pretty interesting character. It was a very powerful female presence, and when it came to her and Amy having, like, you know, these little back and forth discussions, it was a lot of fun. Just in my opinion, some of the best conversations that take place in the episode are between those two, however brief they may be. So yeah, that's really the entirety of it. It's just like, you know, whenever they were on screen together, they had my entire attention. They were really cool. The woman that played Nefertiti did a great job, in my opinion. Oh, and even, I guess that maybe this should have been the focus, just mostly Queen Nefertiti, but after she allows herself to be captured by Solomon, you know, I mean, she's basically got a gun to her the entire time, so she, you know, she can't fight back. But when the opportunity comes, she pretty much kicks Solomon's ass, which was very cool. So yeah, yeah, that's really all I have to say about it. Overall, Nefertiti was awesome. In addition to me considering Amy and Nefertiti to be my favorite parts of the episode. Yeah, or fourth favorite parts of the episode. All right, now moving on to, as usual, the things I liked least about the episode, my annoyances. And I will say that one of these is definitely a nitpick, and I'll point that out. But anyway, my first annoyance with this episode was the robots. And I don't know if maybe it was comedians that were doing the voices of the robots, and that's a lot of why, you know, they had voices in the first place. But in my opinion, the episode would have been a lot better had they not talked. Like, even if they kind of acted stupid or just sort of mimed these silly little things that they do, in my opinion, it would have been more effective than these kind of annoying, not as annoying as the twins in the second Transformer movie voices. Of course, that was racist in addition to being annoying, but yeah, it's just the voices just kind of made the robots really grating on the nerves, in my opinion. So yeah, I just didn't care for them. Now, my second annoyance with this episode, and this would be, in my opinion, the nitpick, and it's essentially the Doctor's crew, or the Doctor's gang. Specifically Nefertiti and Riddell. I don't remember his first name, I only wrote down Riddell. But while I did like Nefertiti as a whole, there were a few things that did admittedly kind of throw me off. Like, okay, so at the beginning of the episode we see her and the Doctor have experienced some form of adventure together. But she goes, like, thousands of years into the future, and she doesn't seem taken aback by that at all. Like, she just kind of is like, oh, okay, so I'm in the future. This is a space station. Okay, whatever. And admittedly, you know, that may be something that happens fairly regularly in the show. Also the classics, I'm sure. I don't know, it just throws me off to think that, you know, someone from that far in the past wouldn't even be taken aback at all by going that far into the future and seeing all these things like robots. It just, I don't know, that kind of threw me off a bit. And then the Riddell guy, I don't know, he just... It seems like his role could have been filled by anyone, and I mean, I think I saw on the Wikipedia the character is based on someone who is fictional, so it's not even like a historical figure, so literally the character could have been filled by anyone. And while it admittedly was kind of a fun character, I don't know, the misogyny kind of got on my nerves after a little while. I mean, it wasn't a huge deal, but I mean, he was rather misogynistic, which I'm sure has to do more with the culture he's from, the time that he's from. But yeah, I felt like he was overall unnecessary. And really, in the end, I feel like the episode could have been done without both of them, just the Pawns and Brian Williams, and the episode would have worked out just fine. Or like, you know, it would have had to, certain scenes would have had to be written a bit different, but overall, it could have been done a little bit better, in my opinion. But as it is, again, that's by and far a nitpick. I didn't feel like that they were bad characters. I didn't feel that they caused any issues with the episode. I just feel like they weren't necessary, I guess you could say. But alright, moving on. Done with the annoyances. It's time to get into my favorite track of the episode. Or was it tracks? No, it's a track, just singular, and that is Take a Ride on Tracy. And it's, or Tracy, whatever it is. But anyway, it's during the scene that the Doctor, Rory, and Brian are running away, and they get on the Triceratops, and, you know, they're running away from being shot at, which, maybe this is another annoyance, but how in the world did those robots not hit anything? Like, they didn't even hit the Triceratops the entire time they're running away, which only adds to the uselessness and the stupidity of the robots in general. I mean, we had full-on stormtrooper mode with these things, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the song of the episode, and it was just a fun little song. Like, you know, it wasn't, I would say, like the most outstanding song or the most well-written song, but it's one that, you know, when you hear that music, it makes you think of that scene and how much fun it is. You know, I mean, as silly as it is with all the lasers, you know, just going around them, it's a legitimately fun scene, and the song reflects that. So that's why it's my track of the episode. Now, it's time for the quotes. Yes, plural quotes of the episode. And there were honestly a lot of, in my opinion, fairly good ones. No outstanding, no, like, you know, supreme quotes of great importance, but there were some really good ones that struck a chord with me for various reasons. The first of which, and I guess you could consider this an honorable mention, but it was a callback to, is it Space Odyssey 2000? Oh Lord, I'm forgetting the name of the movie, but basically, anyway, the movie where the robot is basically, you know, killing all the humans, and when it finally gets powered off, just like the robots when they get powered down, sings the song, Daisy, Daisy, give me your answer due. So yeah, Daisy, Daisy, give me your answer due. Just that reference to, I'll write down the right name if I'm getting it wrong, but Space Odyssey, I think. It's late at night, so forgive me. But yeah, that was my honorable mention of the episode because I just loved that reference. Now, as for the quote, the true quote of the episode, it's actually a conversation between Brian Williams and the Doctor after they discover that, you know, there are dinosaurs on the spaceship, and they seem to be the only living beings on the spaceship. So it starts off with Brian and goes to the Doctor. A spaceship driven by dinosaurs? Brian, please, that would be ridiculous. They're probably just passengers. And that just, it struck me as really funny, as did a lot of other lines in this episode. But that one in particular just kind of stuck out to me. For some reason, it's hard to say. Really, I could have chosen from a lot of different ones, but for me, at least, that is the quote of the episode, at least at this point in time, and the point in time that I wrote it down on my notes. But, as for my overall final thoughts about this episode, I found it to be really fun. I found it to be really good. It's not, I wouldn't say it's one of the best episodes. It's, like, if I were to rank it in the episodes overall of Doctor Who, it would probably rank kind of low. But as a whole, I feel like through this one, and correct me if I'm wrong, but with this one, I feel like I'm getting a glimpse at how a classic Doctor Who episode might be structured. Like, you know, you have this craziness going on. It's like, you know, this weird sci-fi aspect to it, which obviously it's always sci-fi, but it's like dinosaurs on a spaceship. Just in my mind, that sounds like something that an old school sci-fi show would do, and it works so well, in my opinion. And that's one of the reasons why I like it so much, because it feels classic in a new way. Or maybe I'm just rambling, I don't know. But I just really liked that feeling it gave me. Again, despite the issues I had with it, despite my annoyances, I feel like it was overall a very fun episode and quite enjoyable. It's one that I would definitely rewatch, despite, again, you know, I feel like it would be one of the lower tier episodes as a whole compared to what I've seen so far with Doctor Who. So yeah, I definitely give it a thumbs up. It's a good episode and I rather enjoyed it. Now, time for my question of the episode, and it is, when will the rest of the Weasleys show up? Now, obviously that's a stupid, silly question, and it was actually funnier in my head when I wrote it down. But no, my real question is, when will Brian Williams show up again, if at all? I mean, obviously he does some traveling around, seemingly with the Doctor, or at least traveling to different places, which just seemed like so much fun. So I really am hoping that, especially with his connection to the Pawns, that for the limited amount of time they have left with us, that you know, I'll get to see him again at least once, which would be a lot of. I just think it would be a lot of fun to see him again. So yeah, that's really all I have to say, everyone. Thank you very much for joining me for the 72nd episode of Discovering Doctor Who. Coming up next, we have the episode called A Town Called Mercy. And I don't know why, I've been making sure that I don't watch the, you know, Next Time on Doctor Who previews, but just based on the name alone, I feel like it's going to be possibly something having to do with a Western or sort of like an Old West style, because that just sounds like the title of an Old Western movie to me. I could be way off, but it's just kind of an estimate for me at that point. But everyone, again, thank you so much for joining me for this episode. As always, let me know your feelings on this episode down below. Some of your favorite parts, some of the parts you might have hated, your favorite quotes, your favorite music, which on the soundtrack that I checked, there were only like 3 songs specific to this episode. But maybe there were some other ones that I just, you know, glanced over and didn't even notice, or that weren't listed in the soundtrack for some reason. But yeah, can't wait to hear what you all have to say. Sorry, I'm stuttering again, it's kind of late. And just so you know, Friday is a bit far-fetched as far as getting the next episode out, but I am going to try my best if it doesn't come out on Friday, the next Discovering Doctor Who, I can't talk, will be out on Saturday. So I hope you all enjoy that when it comes out, and look forward to actually watching that episode, because I'm a little bit behind on my personal schedule. And until then, everyone, please do go check out some of my other videos that I've put out. I'll, as always, provide annotations here. And I'll shut up now and let you all go. Until next time, everyone, I'm Papa Kenn, and I don't have my Sonic still, so, Alonzi! Lursel! That was the wrong voice. Lursel! Or no, wait. Alon's Lursel!